Chapter 203. Let's just call it my whim. 3. What is the Lord even thinking? At the round table, Tang Gunak went stiff as he heard that. Damned old men. The Tang family was a sect of blood. Sometimes, that was what made the Tang family so special and also different from the other sects. Because it was completely centered around blood ties, it had a bond that couldn't be compared to sects. However, it doesn't always have advantages. Being centered around blood meant that the opinions of older people were given more weight. If it was an ordinary sect, elders who stepped down from their posts to complete their own martial arts tried to get involved in the matters of the family. And it was similar here as well. The elders of the Tang family, whose positions of power in the family had already expired, now held a position where they advised the Lord. And the place where they all usually gathered was the family hall. In the past, this was a gathering merely to advise the Lord. However, as years passed, the elders all became equal to the Lord. No, rather, it was like they had more say in things. Even if Tang Gunak was the Lord who had absolute authority within the family, there was a limit when it came to wielding that authority over his uncles and other older people. An alliance with Mount Hua. Not Wudang, or the Southern Edge sect, but Mount Hua. What the hell were you thinking? Tang Gunak frowned as he looked at the elders shouting. And sir, the fight started. Could it be called a fight? Tang Gunak, unable to bear the rush of angry voices that were directed at him, was about to say something. But before he could even open his mouth, someone's soft voice pierced through the heavy atmosphere. Let's all calm down and listen to the Lord first. But won't you listen to my words? Sorry. The elder, whose name was Tang Wo, looked at them and then at Tang Gunak. Lord, tell us now. What were you thinking? There was a lot of leeway in his voice. Tang Gunak cleared his voice, making sure there was no hostility. Mount Hua is worthy of an alliance with us. Tang Wo looked at Tang Gunak and said, It is strange. And with cold eyes, he said, Unless the Lord's eyes were clouded, I don't know how you could come to such an evaluation. Did Mount Hua regain its old status without my knowledge? If not. With a scornful voice, Tang Wo continued. Has the Tang family fallen in power without me knowing about it? Knowing that this was obvious ridicule, Tang Gunak held back. I will say it again, I saw potential in Mount Hua. They both looked at each other. One was the lord of the Tang family, and the other was someone who represented the elders of the family. And the other people too. The two men with the most authority kept looking at each other. Good for Mount Hua. I heard that Tang Pai was taken down from the position of the successor. Tang Gunak didn't expect this story to come out, so he nodded. You decided it on your own. Tang Gunak didn't answer and looked at Tang Wo. And then nodded again. Ads by Pub Future. I did. Are you saying that the Lord decided that on his own? Then will you be happy if I put Tang Pai back online to become the successor? At those sharp words back, Tang Wo smiled. Lord. The words we say are from our hearts, the hearts which worry about the future of the family. We aren't doing this to rile you up. Tang Gunak bit his lip. This is what old people blinded by power are like. If they really lived for the Tang family, they wouldn't be trying to put their fingers into each decision Tang Gunak was making. But all the elders were corrupted by the powers they possessed. Since they had no hope of expanding further from Sichuan, they were all focused on sharing power within the family. Even if it meant that it would limit the power of the Lord. First, let's hear the reason Tang Pai was taken down from the position. It is because he isn't fit for it. Isn't fit? Yes. Tang Gunak spoke firmly. I judged him to be inappropriate to hold the role of a lord in the future. It would be better to take away the role of successor from him as soon as possible. This decision will prove to be good for the growth of Tang Pai too. Then who are planning to put in that position? One of his younger siblings. Tang Wo's eyes narrowed. Your arrogance pierces the sky. Tang Wo was someone who had ascended the position of the successor, but at the discretion of his elders, he gave up the seat to his younger brother and stepped down. That younger brother was Tang Gunak's father. It was unknown whether it was just coincidence or intentional, but now Tang Gunak wanted to take down Tang Pai, who was the first in line. Isn't Tang Pai skilled enough? Tang Gunak firmly shook his head. He is lacking. Tang Pai is. Yes. In the past, I would have never discussed taking down Tang Pai from the position. But Tang Gunak bit his lip and said, I have seen with my own eyes how lacking Tang Pai is, so I cannot compromise on this. Are you talking about Mount Hua's divine dragon? Yes. Tang Wo looked at Tang Gunak. His eyes shone brightly. Then you mean that the abilities are important above all? Right. Exactly. Then Tang Wo smiled. Then it doesn't have to be the child of the Lord. Tang Gunak's eyes twitched. This was a sensitive area. It was obvious what he was aiming for with this. However, if he denied it, it would mean he was changing the past words. A child with the right abilities and the surname of Tang can become the successor. Tang Wo smiled. I am truly amazed how broad the Lord's thinking is. With one word, you have proved that this wasn't because of personal greed. Tag Wei looked at Tang Gunak. Ads by Pub Future. However, Tang Gunak knew that this meant that Tang Wo wasn't on his side. Then, if there is a person who exceeds Mount Hua's divine dragon among the children of the Tang family, you have no objection to putting them in the position of successor. Tang Gunak looked at Tang Wo, who was speaking his true feelings. I heard that this child called Chung Myung, who is in our mansion, is slated to become a possible best in the world. Right. Then there is no better standard than that child. How about it? Why don't we have a spar with that child and give our children a chance to become the new successor? Tang Gunak laughed. It would have been impossible for him in the past to even smile in front of these old men. But now, he couldn't help but laugh. Lord. It looks like the elders are all making a mistake. Tang Gunak spoke in a sarcastic way. There is no child in the Tang family who can go against Mount Hua's divine dragon. At Tang Gunak's words, Tang Wo smiled. I heard about how the Lord was humiliated by that child. Don't think that you know everything. The children of the Tang family aren't weak. Tang Gunak said. There is no need to keep going in circles. Get to the point. Tang Wo frowned at it. If the Lord says that, the old man cannot speak anymore. How about it? Let Tang Hak go against that child Chung Myung. Tang Hak. Right. If Tang Hak wins, of course, he will be in the fight for the successor position, right? Tang Gunak smiled. You seem to want to make Tang Hak the successor. And you said you wouldn't even give special treatment to your grandson. I am only speaking about his abilities. Do you think the child will be able to surpass Mount Hua's divine dragon? Isn't the Lord thinking that because the Lord doesn't know to trust his family? The words coming out of his mouth were like daggers. Good. But Tang Gunak spoke with a smirk. Gambling requires a stake, and challenges come with a price. How about adding a bet? Bet. Yes. Tang Gunak spoke firmly. If Tang Hak wins the spar, I will give the elders the authority to appoint him as the successor. Ho! Tang Wo went wide-eyed. This meant that if Tang Hak won, he could be directly placed as the successor. The successor would then become the Lord. This wasn't any different from saying that the power of appointing the successor would fall into the hands of elders. Instead, if Mount Hua's divine dragon wins, the elders will never interfere with my power or my decisions until I step down from my position. Ah. So. Does that sound good? Are you willing to accept it? As the talks went on and the bets that were placed were huge, the elders began to whisper. It sounds like he has a card. Check out our recommendations curated just for you. Check out our recommendations curated just for you. Discovery feed. Ads by Pub Future. Sounds dangerous. It is dangerous for both. However, Tang Wo seemed to have a different opinion. Good. Yuk. Elder. Despite the words of those around him, he didn't waver, and Tang Gunak nodded his head. Then I will prepare it. I will make sure that the spar happens tomorrow. N-O-V-E-L-B-J-N.C. Sure. Then. Tang Gunak bowed his head and left the room. As soon as he disappeared, the elders' voices turned into a roar. Is he fine? What was? What did he say? Does he think Tang Hak will lose to Mount Hua's divine dragon? That won't happen. Pathetic people. Tang Wo shook his head. Opportunities aren't given but created. If not now, when will we get the chance to seize power from the Lord ever again? True, but Tang Wo looked around. Worthless beings. Everyone was blinded by small gains that they were unable to do anything huge. He was worried about the things which would happen, but there is no way. The result would be a perfect win. Wasn't that something every old man in the room should have realized by now? If one wanted to achieve something big, one had to risk everything to get that chance. This is my one and only chance to have my grandson as the successor. Tang Wo didn't want to miss this. He would be able to see his grandson take the position of successor and then become the lord from there. But can Tang Hak defeat Mount Hua's divine dragon? He isn't called all those names for nothing. Don't worry. It isn't that I am underestimating that child. No, it isn't that. After all, he is someone who made the Lord fall into his arms. Then, first, the child has suffered serious wounds in his spar with the Lord. And there is no way the injury has already healed. That is true. Secondly, the only thing he experienced was the throwing blades. That means he didn't experience the real power of the Tang family. The elders nodded their heads. The true power of the Tang family. All those who were present here knew what it was. Finally, Tang Wo looked at everyone. It is necessary to produce results by any means necessary. Isn't it the way of the Tang family? I wish he could stand unharmed in the spar. The elders who understood it turned to each other. There was a bit of guilt. And a bit of shock. But it was all overshadowed by the lust which followed the lust for power. Don't worry. Mount Hua's divine dragon won't be able to walk out of the house on his own feet. A smile crept onto the lips of Tang Wo. I have no personal grudges against you, but I think it is your misfortune to meet the Tang family. Chapter 212. Goodbye, friends. 2. It didn't take long for the Tang family's situation to settle down. Tang Gunak moved as if he was waiting for this moment. He swiftly took down the power and authority of the elders and threw Tang Wo into the dungeon. At the same time, the elders were criticized for failing to do their role, and even the great elders had their powers restricted. The great elders tried to protect their authority, but it was the Lord who had the upper hand this time. No matter how supreme the role of the great elder was, without people supporting him, they couldn't oppose the authority of the Lord. In the end, they, too, had to step down from their power and retreat. The family members, including Tang Hak, who sympathized with the efforts of Tang Wo, were imprisoned right away. The investigation is moving slowly. The reason? Tang Gunak nodded and poured tea for Chung Myung. Wasn't the sin too obvious? Right. If you put your mind to it, you don't have to waste this much time trying to prove their guilt. Besides, what they did is so serious that they will never do it again. Then why is time being wasted? Because there are too many things to organize. Aha! Chung Myung nodded. While Tang Wo was being investigated, there was an atmosphere of fear that clouded the entire family. The eldest of the family was being investigated. Who would dare speak out in such a situation? This meant that the Lord would take advantage of the atmosphere to get everything he could from this situation. You are a more terrifying person than I thought. You shouldn't speak of just me alone. What have I done? Don't get me started. Tang Gunak shook his head. The life Chung Myung had lived was both long and short at the same time, depending on how one thought about it. It was the absurd strength of Chung Myung that piqued Tang Gunak's interest. Even so, how could he explain the emotions he felt from this man he couldn't think of as just a young warrior? Maybe accepting Mount Hua as a friend was the best choice of my life. Well, as Chung Myung said, it wasn't the Tang family that chose Mount Hua, but Mount Hua that chose the Tang family. True, but will it be fine? What? Tang Pai. Ah, him. Chung Myung smiled bitterly. It is true that what he did was wrong, but what is the point of cutting him off from the position of successor? Tang Pai is timid. You can tell that just by looking at what he did. Lord. I don't know if it might come out as arrogant for me to say this now, but... At this point. No, what are you saying? Single quote. Chief bastard. Ah, anyway. Ahem, sure speak. Chung Myung spoke there. People learn from their mistakes. No. Calling it a mistake is a mistake in itself. Why do you think Tang Wo did such a thing? Well, I am curious about it too. He wasn't that strange when I was the successor. It must be because he lived in the Tang family. The Tang family isn't harming or causing suffering to anyone. You do not know many things that are happening in the world. So, you live with the little things that you know and vie for the position of a successor or lord. Seeing the world, facing failure, frustration and making mistakes, they all make us feel miserable. We grow as people. Conversely, Chung Myung looked at Tang Gunak and said, no one can grow under someone who snatches away everything because of one mistake. Ads by Pub Future. Tang Gunak, who knew what Chung Myung was getting at, nodded quietly. I mean, no one is perfect from the start. Everyone's the same. Chung Myung was the same too. Along with being unmatched in martial arts, he had a personality which was tilted toward chaos. If he hadn't been reincarnated, he would have never known how terrible he was in the past. He would have never known how much his Sahyungs had to suffer and endure while they tried to turn this terrible person into a human. In other words, if his Sahyungs had been reluctant to take in Chung Myung because of his character, then this version of Chung Myung would have never existed. It isn't like we humans don't make mistakes at all. We are human because we learn from our mistakes. Right. It is a basic thing. And I forgot the basics. Tang Gunak sighed softly. Tang Pai was his child. He could have handled the situation with a little more ease. In addition, hadn't Tang Pai said that he would accept any punishment that was given to him for his mistake? He even said he would give up his position as the successor and also went ahead and caught the spy who was trying to hurt their guests. When Chung Myung said this, it felt like a stone had been thrown at his head. But is it fine? Tang Pai threw a knife at you. If Tang Pai becomes the head of the family, you will have to face him often. Will you be able to see him? Why will I not? For me to be unable to see him face to face, he has to be stronger than me. And it would be nice if Tang Pai himself took the position of greeting me. After putting the knife in my stomach so shamelessly, would he be able to backstab me again? Hoo. That is true. Thanks. Tang Gunak had initially resolved that Tang Pai would never get to be the Lord. I understand what you mean. But it is also true that Tang Pai made a mistake, so I will make sure to have a fair competition for the position of the successor. That will help in his growth as well. You should do what you feel is right. Tang Gunak sighed. The next matter. He touched his head. His demeanor was different from his usual dignified form. So wants to enter Mount Hua. What is it with her? Kuak. I want to know too. Tang Gunak roared. His daughter, whom he had cherished and raised so well all this while, now wanted to go to Mount Hua. Do you want me to say no? Do you have the authority to do that? I don't. But Bak Chon Sasuk well, he will just say that the sect leader should be the one to decide. What kind of person is the sect leader? Hoo. A woman from the Tang family. Someone who is too big to be embraced by Mount Hua is coming. We will give her a comfortable seat and take good care of her. That is the kind of person he is. Tang Gunak sighed. I don't want to send So to Mount Hua. Sure. So take care of her. What are you saying? Single quote. Tang Gunak sighed. No matter how much power I hold in the family, I cannot change the traditions which have been passed down for hundreds of years in a single day. There will be a huge backlash. Okay. I want her to be happy. But if there is no way she can be happy in her own family, then I want to send her to a place where she can be happy. Why does that have to be Mount Hua? I would recommend the Wudang sect. The Ma sect would be fine too. You want my daughter to turn into a monk? Tang Gunak's eyes flared up. Seeing that, Chung Myung gulped. He is a man who loves his daughter too much. Single quote. Personalized content tailored to your preferences, all in one place. Personalized content tailored to your preferences, all in one place. Discovery feed. Ads by PubFuture. Anyway, please take care of my child. If you take care of her, I can send her off confidently. No, who is accepting her? I don't want to. I cannot be a nanny for someone at this age. My daughter is older, though. Age doesn't matter here. Tang Gunak looked at Chung Myung with a disappointed face and said, Didn't you ask me to give you our practitioners? That is a topic we went over before. Are you trying to use that here? So is an expert in that area. What? Tang Gunak's face changed. So has learned a few cultivation techniques to cleanse the body and some light qi usage techniques which are not exactly included in the legacy of the family. Mount Hua practitioners do that too. And she has also learned about medicine and herbs. There is nothing else for her to learn about them. She has had the entire medical knowledge of the family passed down to her. She is now the best disciple of the medicine head of the family. Her level is so advanced that the medicine head wants her to take over his position rather than getting married. He. Honestly, it was my wish to receive her under us. Tang Gunak felt seriously concerned now. Can I really trust this one? Single quote. The man called Chung Myung became stranger and stranger as one spent more time with him. Sometimes he was the most reliable person, and other times his behavior was like he wanted to lead everyone to their deaths. Of course, it isn't because of that. November, L. B. JNN. Of course. It is a promise. She will pass down all the techniques she knows to the disciples of Mount Hua. If you are not satisfied, additional members of the Tang family will come to her aid. But So-So can be the initial helper. Yes. Chung Myung smiled and nodded. As soon as you people leave, I, along with So-So and my family, will head to Mount Hua. And I will meet the sect leader and explain to him the situation at hand, and then let So-So join the sect. The Lord will head there personally. If a person wants to be friends with you, they cannot send their subordinates, right? Chung Myung smiled. Sounds like you really want us to be friends. Will that not work? As if it wouldn't, Chung Myung said. But he didn't want this to happen. The Tang family wasn't inferior to Mount Hua. No, rather, the Tang family was a huge ally for Mount Hua right now. And wasn't there a part of Chung Myung from the past that connected him to the Tang family personally? Our departure has been delayed for a day, so you can join him tomorrow and head to Yunnan. It has been so long. We should have left sooner. May I ask why you are going to Yunnan? It is a secret. A secret that is important enough to be hidden from your friends. I will tell you if our sect leader permits it. Tang Gunak laughed. How could Mount Hua's sect leader permit that now? In the end, I'll need to go to Mount Hua myself and listen to it. Right. The choice will be made by the sect leader. Well. Tang Gunak nodded his head. This was the end of the discussion between him and Chung Myung. So now. Tang Gunak rose from his seat. What is it? He bowed his head at the puzzled Chung Myung. We have received undeserved grace from you. What is it? I told you about this last time as well. Single quote. Ads by PubFuture. It was a greeting from the Tang family last time, and this is a greeting from Tang Gunak. Thank you. Really, thank you. Chung Myung looked at the smiling Tang Gunak. On the surface, Chung Myung might have looked like a greedy person, but he had done so much for the Tang family. Actually, if one gets to know him well, the warmth that is in his heart. Just words. It has to be there, right? Single quote. Tang Gunak's face turned red. You are basically robbing us of everything. You need to do that much for a friend. Where in the world would such a friend even exist? Don't get angry and just listen. It isn't really a big deal. If it isn't such a huge deal, then how come I wasn't told about it before? Because it is possible only now. Tang Gunak frowned. If it wouldn't work then, why would it work now? Single quote. This would mean that it was a task that was only possible if Tang Gunak had full control over the family. And now, with the elders devoid of their power, Tang Gunak would be able to do it himself. If this was the case, then it couldn't be a small thing. What I want is... Chung Myung whispered. Tang Gunak's face was dyed in shock. What was that? It is exactly as you heard. Where will you use that? It can be used, but... It isn't that much of a problem, right? Tang Gunak's face contorted. As you may know, the poison of the Tang family cannot be simply given to outsiders. I know. This will be the only time. Tang Gunak frowned. And then he sighed. With the elders suspended from their posts, he could give Chung Myung what he wanted, but... You're really robbing me of the last of my emergency funds I had saved up. You can do that much for a friend who has to travel a long way, right? Kuak. Tang Gunak looked at Chung Myung and smiled. Good. But if I do that, I will lose a lot of money, so I have some conditions. For a lord, you seem to like putting so many conditions. What is it? Tang Gunak hesitated and said. Show it to me one more time. The sword technique that you used on the stage. Show it to me one more time. Chung Myung smiled quietly. It would go on forever. Even if a person disappears, the meaning martial arts held would continue. What the ancestor achieved during his lifetime would be passed on to future generations. And as long as the will behind it continued, the will of that man would never disappear. Right. This is what martial sects are about. Chang Yang smiled. That is quite difficult. Is it difficult? If you feed me a lot of Sichuan food, I will show it to you again. Tang Gunak smiled brightly. I will feed you as much as you want. So much that your stomach will just literally explode. The two smiled, holding each other's hands. Chapter 213, Goodbye, friends. 3. People from the Tang family have come. They have said that they will pay for all the damage, including the cost of repairing the collapsed pavilion. Ah. Zhou Paiyang shed a slight sigh at Zhou Gul's words. It isn't some shocking thing. As surprising as it sounds, they are a family with dignity. Yes. But for the Lord to come himself. Ah. Zhou Paiyang had a strange expression. N-O-V-E in .c The Tang family is a family that knows how to protect their name. If they inflict harm due to their mistakes, they will compensate for it completely, even if it becomes a bit excessive. But I have never before heard of something like this for the Lord of the Sichuan Tang family to personally come and offer an apology. Zhou Gul clenched his fists. The financial compensation is indeed great, but it is nothing compared to the apology obtained from a lord who can get himself to bow his head to others. And this time, the Lord has personally come to apologize. Zhou Paiyang looked at Zhou Gul. The fact that you, a disciple of Mount Hua, is my second son, must have had a great influence. It looks like what you have accomplished outside of this family is far greater than I thought. Seeing that the Sichuan Tang family's Lord himself has decided to save our face in public. Zhou Gul listened without saying anything. Now wasn't the time to speak. As he became silent, his father spoke in a low voice. So, when do you plan to return home? Father. Zhou Gul bit his lip. This was uncomfortable and irritating. But he would eventually have to go through this one day. I like Mount Hua. More than this family. It is definitely not like that. But Zhou Gul looked him straight in the eyes and said, I think this is the path I should take. I am proud of my family. I think what Father and Hyang are doing is an amazing feat. But this isn't where I belong. Seeing Zhou Gul's firm eyes, Zhou Paiyang's lips began to twitch. I apologize. Father, if I have just one life, I want to live as a disciple of Mount Hua. Zhou Gul sighed. Gul. Yes, Father. Do you know what my dream is? I do not know. It isn't something huge. I just want you and your Hyang to help each other and continue on this business we inherited from our ancestors. That was my dream since you were born. As he heard that low voice, Zhou Gul bowed his head. But Zhou Paiyang continued with a light strength in his voice. Now I understand. My dream isn't yours. If I have a dream, you get to have one too. I should trample on yours for the sake of achieving mine. Father. That is what disciple Chang Yang did. You are the one who decides. It sounded very cocky back then, but now I understand what he meant. Just because I am your father, it doesn't mean I decide your life. You, too, have your dreams, and you deserve to go after them. Zhou Paiyang smiled brightly and tapped Zhou Gul on the shoulder. Be strong. Personalized content tailored to your preferences, all in one place. Personalized content tailored to your preferences, all in one place. Discovery feed. Ads by PubFuture. Zhou Gul looked at his father with trembling eyes. I am sorry, father. Ahem. Zhou Paiyang, who felt awkward as he heard that, coughed and spoke. Don't worry about the family. Because your Hyang is here. And even if you live under the roof of Mount Hua, don't forget that we are always cheering for you. I will keep that in mind. Zhou Paiyang smiled brightly. Yunnan is a scary place. Yes. Seeing what you did in the Tang family, I think you can handle Yunnan. But parents can't get rid of their feelings for their children, and therefore I cannot put my worries away. So, come back safely. Yes, father. Zhou Piang tapped his son's shoulders, and Zhou Gul felt the warmth of it. Are these the people? Quack Yung, the one who was in charge of the peace merchant group, looked at the disciples of Mount Hua with curious eyes. Yes. It is a request from the Lord, so take good care of them and make sure they aren't inconvenienced. Thanks. Quack. Chapter 214, Goodbye, Friends. 4. Ah. You want me to wear this? Yes. Bak Chan looked at the clothes in front of him with a frown. This is the merchant group's clothes. Yes, these are the clothes of the group. Then why do we have to wear them? Oh my, warrior. The place we are heading to is Yunnan. If you enter Yunnan wearing the clothes you have on now, it will cause a huge commotion. We have to enter quietly without problems. Ah, I see. Bak Chan nodded. First, Chang Myung has to be persuaded. What? Bak Chan shuddered as he saw Chang Myung, who had already changed out of his sect robes. You were wearing it? Yes. Why? No, I just thought you wouldn't. The robe with Mount Hua's plum blossom engraved on it was in his hands. Chang Myung might or might not have respect for other people, but his respect for Mount Hua had always been overflowing. Because of this, Bak Chan thought that he would have to force Chang Myung to change his clothes. Why? No, those clothes. This. Chang Myung shoved the robes of Mount Hua into a bag. Clothes are clothes. Sasuk. Change your clothes. Let's head into Yunnan. Ah. Bak Chan took the robes from the merchant group member. After that, all the disciples of Mount Hua gathered in one place and laughed as they looked at each other. Each day they looked at each other wearing the uniform of Mount Hua, so seeing them dressed as porters was awkward in their eyes. Doesn't this look custom-made for Zhou Gul? Quack, as expected. It looks perfect because of the bastard who's wearing it. Don't make fun of me, Sasuk. Zhou Gul's face was dyed red. At that time, Quack Yung, the leader of the group, approached them and requested. As you know, Yunnan is a dangerous place. You must not accompany anyone other than authorized people. Yes, head. So, I earnestly ask you to not do anything that may reveal your identity. Please, I will say it again. Please. Seeing the head ask this of them repeatedly, Bak Chan, who became curious, said. It looks like Yunnan is under strict control. Yunnan has multitudes of people living in it, this much is certain. But Yunnan isn't just simply under the influence of the Nanman Beast Palace. It is said that they control even the entry of people into Yunnan. And their tyranny is even worse. Why leave the power in their hands? Yunnan is a barren land. There is nothing there for others to gain by fighting or defeating them. Therefore, the officials have no intention of restoring power there. As a result, only the tea traders in Yunnan get harmed. If it hadn't been for the material that they required to make the pills, they wouldn't have ever come to Yunnan. So, I will say it again. If this goes wrong, we will be unable to set foot into Yunnan ever again. And then we will be left to ruin. Don't worry. No such backside. Bak Chan looked at Chang Myung without realizing it. NTS will happen. Well, at least put some effort into making sure it doesn't happen. See what personalized content we have based on your browsing history. See what personalized content we have based on your browsing history. Discovery feed. Ads by PubFuture. But we cannot promise it. I request of you. Quack Yung said it again and went back to his place. Bak Chan, who listened to all this, once again realized just how absolute the power of the Nanman Beast Palace was in Yunnan. I think they have more power than the Tang family. Doesn't it seem like that? There are sects in Sichuan that can at least keep the Tang family in check, but there are no such sects in Yunnan. At Yun Zhong's words, Bak Chan tilted his head. But aren't there any other sects in Yunnan? Seems like it. When Yun Zhong hesitated, Chang Myung, who was listening to them, spoke as if it was no big deal. There is a sect called Diankang that doesn't care about these things. What do you mean? As I said, it is a sect that has no interest in things like increasing its power or influence. It is a place where people gather together deep inside the mountains to practice Tao and learn martial arts. Aren't we the same? EHH. If we thought about it like that, then compared to the Diankang sect in the Kunlun Mountains, Mount Hua and the Wudang sect wouldn't even be called Taoists. The Diankang sect members only go after Tao. No, this bastard changes his clothes and now even makes fun of his clan. Taoists are the same everywhere. No, I am telling the truth. The Diankang sect in Kunlun, they don't care what kind of opinion the world has of them. Even if they get kicked out of the 9 Great Sects One Union. Does that make any sense? Think about it. If they had such an interest, why would they set up their sect in such a distant place like Yunnan? They could have been treated way better even in Sichuan, which is considered to be a countryside. But what can they even do in Yunnan? True. Bak Chan nodded his head as if he understood. From the point of view of the Tao, they are a respectable sect. Because they do not want to get involved in matters only to increase their fame. From the point of view of their sect, they wouldn't even have to care about what happens outside because of that, right? They indeed are great. Bak Chan shook his head. If he was asked to live like that, he was sure he would run away. So don't worry about the Diankang sect. The important thing is the Nanman Beast Palace. How do you know this all so well? I am a beggar. I grew up hearing all kinds of rumors. Chang Yang responded naturally and turned away before they could say anything further. We have wasted a lot of time in Sichuan, so let's not do that here. First, we need to get into Yunnan as soon as possible, so let's cooperate with the merchant group and move. Bak Chion's mouth went wide as he heard that. No, who is telling him to work? We are running out of time. If we had moved a little faster, we could have been there already. You. Seriously? Exclamation mark. Think of what you did. Ugh. Bak Chan forced himself to calm down and sighed. Anyway, I understand. Let's cooperate with them and move as fast as we can. What remained to be seen now was if the one who asked him to work would even do anything. The disciples of Mount Hua then started walking around the carriage with their luggage. Since it was a horse-drawn carriage, the horses had to be changed frequently, and their speed was slow. Because of that, they couldn't help but feel frustrated. But there was no other way. They couldn't obtain spare horses in these mountain areas, so they had to be considerate of the animals they had. Ugh. So, when do we reach Yunnan? Chang Yang asked. This was his first time to Yunnan too. And it felt like his body was cramping up in anticipation. I think we can go faster if the path was cleared a little bit. He frowned as he looked at the messy path. Even though they were further away from Chengdu and closer to Yunnan, the road was an absolute mess. Ads by Pub Future. A path turned into a road if it was maintained consistently. And if it wasn't, it was just a path with all kinds of trees, stones, and other obstacles blocking the way. Usually, the management of roads was done by the officials under the royal family, but since Yunnan wasn't under their control, the management wasn't carried out. Quack Yung, who listened to it, said, "This is still the land of Sichuan." Ah, is that so? Yes. But since this is the road to Yunnan, no one feels the need to get close to it and repair it. Then the road will worsen with time. Yes. But that isn't the only problem. The closer we get to the border of Yunnan, the more bandits and robbers we will come across. This is a journey that risks our lives. Quack Yung sighed. Even the warriors of the Central Plains are reluctant to collide with the Nanman Beast Palace, so the officials don't even show up. Therefore, the border of Sichuan and Yunnan is a lawless zone. Ah, so. Bak Chan looked at the guards near the carriage. He had initially wondered why there were so many guards with them, and it was now revealed that it was because of the bandit attacks. We have reached the border, so everyone should be careful from now. If there is anything that seems strange, let us know right away. I will. We are doing our best to speed up, so I would appreciate it if you could be a little more patient despite it being frustrating. Ah, not at all. Merchant Head, we are sorry for the trouble we have caused you. There is no need to overwork your people because of us. Bak Chan bowed, but the man didn't seem relaxed. Late. We are late. This is too late. What is it with you again? Chang Yang spoke with puffed up cheeks. When will we reach Yunnan if we move like this? We cannot help it. Since the horses are pulling the carriage, the speed is bound to be slow. People cannot pull this carriage, right? Exclamation mark. But this is too slow. If we go to Yunnan at this pace, seasons will change. No. Years will pass. On our way home, we'll have to pray for the sect leader to still be alive. Yeah, you fucking idiot. Don't say that. This is freaking frustrating. Chang Yang frowned. Why don't we lead the wagon ourselves? First, aside from the fact that people who can pull a wagon stand out, the people of Yunnan will know that we have learned martial arts. How do you plan on handling that? Quack. Chang Yang scratched his head. But this is too slow. He was prepared for this to some extent, but this was much slower than what he had thought. And it felt like it would take them months to reach Yunnan at this pace. Which season should I bet on? Chang Yang sighed. But what kind of camping preparations take this long? They stopped and were preparing the camp for the night. Zhou Gul Sehyung. Does it take this much time to prepare for the camp? It doesn't usually take this much, but... Zhou Gul scratched his head. Still, there are not enough guards and people from the merchant group, and it seems like their people are doing all the work. Ah. Chang Yang clicked his tongue. Then it is taking so long because there aren't enough people to do all the work. Seems like it. N-O-Vel-B-in.C. Ah. Then they should have asked us for help right from the start. We would have gotten this over with much sooner. Why didn't they tell me? Exclamation mark. Ah. Ads by Pub Future. Chang Yang jumped up from his seat. It must have been because we are the guests of the Tang family. It is way better to help them out now so we can get to bed early and then leave early too. We can look at it like that, but... Bak Chon heard it. Certainly, this guy is really funny when it is like this. It is a name that now shone only for Mount Hua, but the name of Mount Hua's divine dragon will soon shake the whole central fields. The phrase the best in the world couldn't apply to anyone and everyone. And naturally, for such people, it was normal for their egos to rise with their name, but Chang Yang had always remained the same. He is disgusting till the end. Ah, isn't this a good thing? What are you doing? We should help them now. Those men need to sleep early so that they can move early. Right. It was when Bak Chon got up from his seat with a smile on his face. Ah. What? The disciples of Mount Hua all turned their gazes at once. They could see the dark bushes swaying. Crush. Hoo. Ha ha. Dozens of people appeared from the bushes with sly laughter. Who are they? The guards who were escorting the merchant group up drew their weapons and stood in front. Hee. It is a good thing we camped here. You didn't think that this would be the front yard of our Clue Tiger village, right? Leave your things, and your lives will be spared. If not, your lives will be at risk. The disciples of Mount Hua, who were looking at the people, opened their mouths wide. And then a few groaning voices were heard. Bandits. Bandits. No, since this is the Central Plains, shouldn't they be called barbarians? Anyways, they are robbers. Yes, that works too. Oh. Robbers. Bak Chon smiled. To meet a robber in this life. Do you want me to deal with them? It was the moment when Joe Gould took a step ahead. Hey, no. A voice of disapproval was heard from behind them. A voice that seemed to give the impression that the others shouldn't move. The disciples of Mount Hua looked back in anxiety. They saw Chang Yang smiling like he was the incarnation of Buddha. What did you say they are? Robbers. They don't look like robbers to me, though. What do they look like? They aren't robbers but horses. Horses? Yes. Chang Yang smiled. These are horses, powerful ones that will take us to Yunnan. Oh my, we are so lucky. What are you doing? Catch them before they run away. Bak Chon felt pity for the bandits who tried to rob them but were getting robbed in return. Chapter 215, Goodbye, Friends. 5. Save us. Forgive us. I will do anything if you let me go. Bak Chon titled his head. What are they saying? That they will do anything if we spare them. Bak Chon frowned at Joe Gould's answer. Didn't I tell you not to hit their mouths? Yes, but they rebelled. Lovely Saze, just because they resist, we don't aim for their jaws. Bak Chon shook his head. I cannot use Joe Gould. Somehow, they all seem to resemble Chang Yang. If that was the case, why bother cursing at Chang Yang alone? He sighed heavily and looked at the kneeling bandits. That looks so painful. Come to think of it, there was no room for sympathy for these people. Because they were the ones who were aiming for the merchant's goods. According to Quack Gyung, these bandits had definitely killed a lot of people, so there was a high chance that these people had killed kind-hearted people because of their greed. But despite knowing that, hoo. Seeing Chang Yang walking behind him with a smile on his face made him feel bad for the bandits. Chang Yang, who was smiling the whole time, approached Bak Chon. What do we do now? What do we do? Chang Yang smiled as he looked down at the bandits. Although they don't eat grass, they will pull the carriage if we feed them something. Just kill them, bastard. Quack Yung rubbed his eyes. However, no matter how many times he repeated that action, the vision in front of him didn't change. The horses that were supposed to pull the carriage painstakingly were now just lightly walking beside him as if they were out taking a stroll. And it was even more shocking that humans were pulling the carriage now. Quack. Quack. The bandits, who had now turned into horses, dragged the carriage as their entire bodies struggled. What does he normally do to even think about making a human being pull a carriage? Would a normal man even be able to think about doing such a thing? Even more surprising was that the man-drawn carriage was moving 3 times faster than when it was horse-drawn. If humans could be such good horses, then why were humans using horses for their carriage? No. No. N-O-V-E in.C om. The swordsman named Chang Yang, who sat on the carriage seat, hit the head of the bandit closest to him with his sheathed sword. Are you kidding me? Where is the strength in your legs? And no. You men are really lucky. You are a bandit and a killer. I am not the kind of person to keep such people alive. Still, you are useful, so I spared you. But you keep making useless excuses and don't even move. No. Not at all. The carriage began to move faster. It was now at the speed where the people around it had to run to keep up with it. The poor bandits pulled the carriage with all their might without resisting and shedding tears. Quack Yung opened his mouth at this strange sight he had never imagined happening in front of him. And the captain of the escort team quietly approached him and said, "Ads by Pub Future. Merchant head. Yes, escort captain. It is about the people pulling the carriage. Yes. Hee hee. So absurd. I am sorry. The captain must be having a hard time understanding it, but the people there. No. No. It isn't that. Ah. The captain spoke with a pale face. They're stronger than me. Ha. They're stronger than me. Ah. Quack Yung looked at the escort captain, unable to understand. The escort captain, whose name was Sama Hui, had the nickname Lighting Fast Hands. He was even quite famous in the Sichuan area. Because the path to Yunnan was difficult and dangerous, he was hired to escort the merchant goods they carried with them. It was difficult to even get this man to work for me, but now H is saying that H is weaker than a horde of random bandits. So you were saying? The bandits who were pulling the carriage. They're stronger than me. So, it wasn't just the disciples of Mount Hua, but even a group of bandits were stronger than this man. You bastard. What is with those feet? And a man as young as him was trampling on such bandits. And it isn't just one, but all of the bandits are stronger than me. All 10 of them. Yes. Each one. The escort captain glanced at the bandits with a tired face. Didn't they say they were from the Occlude Tiger Village? I did hear something like that in the beginning. If it is that place, then they're notorious and are known to be fearsome death reapers around here. I heard that they were a new group of bandits who were united by some prominent ones. I think I heard that too. At this point, only one question remained. What are they doing? That, well, it seems good. Quack Yung didn't receive any explanation from Tang Gunak about the Mount Hua disciples. He had just heard that they were guests and that he had to take care of them. So, he knew only one thing. I heard that they were the disciples of Mount Hua. Mount Hua? Did you say Mount Hua? Are you talking about the Mount Hua? Yes. From what I know, I heard that Mount Hua is gaining back its name. I guess. The escort captain trembled. Still, wasn't this a bit harsh? Members of the Occlude Tiger Village, unbelievably strong bandits, were taken down by young children. It wasn't even like all of them had gone up against them. One young-looking kid went up, and in an instant, all of them were beat up as if they were dogs. The Lord asked me to take care of them. Since they were guests, he had to take care of them. Or did the man mean that he had to be careful of them? Quack Yung coughed. The whole situation had unfolded pretty quickly, so he couldn't say anything then, but he had to sort it out now. Ads by Pub Future. Yes. Until now, Quack Yung had only talked to Bak Chon, but now his eyes were on Chang Yang. Seeing him dealing with the bandits, he wanted to talk to that person. Are you fine? What? Chang Yang looked at Quack Yung with a bright face. As the speed of the journey increased, his mood also improved. See, can we enter Yunnan like this? Is there a reason we can't? What brat? No matter how you try to put it, it is too weird. Men pulling a carriage. Them. Right. We cannot avoid people looking at them. Besides, we already have a problem with our low staff members. How can we answer questions that would arise from people seeing them? Tell them they're bandits. Ah. What else can we say other than putting the bandits who attacked us to use? There is no need to lie, right? It does sound nice. Chang Yang smiled. They wouldn't ask so much for the bandits. And they might not even think that far. The people in the Nanman Beast Palace are also humans. If they ask how they were taken down, say the escorts over there beat them and punished them by making them pull the carriage. Then everyone will like it. It would be like everyone did their jobs right. Will that be fine? If you think about it, there was no reason to hate this explanation. How great is this situation? They pull the carriage instead of the horses, and we create camp at night. If there is anything we can give them to eat, we can put into other uses too. See, can we really do that? Yes. Wouldn't that be better than dying? If the merchant head doesn't like it, we can bury them in a quiet place. If we release them, they will go robbing people again. At Chang Yang's words, the bandits who were pulling the carriage shouted with tears and watery noses. A dog. I will pull the carriage like a dog. Let us work. We will do anything you ask. Please don't forsake us. We can pull it far better than the horses. Please. A beautiful sight. Such passion for their work to escape death. It was a dire scene of walking on the thin line between life and death. The bandits desperately began to cry, hoping to win Quack Gyung's heart. Merchant head. Sir. Savior. How far can you go, you bandits? Quack Gyung closed his eyes. Will it be fine? I think taking bandits is dangerous for us. Dangerous. Chang Yang titled his head. And he smiled as he hit the ass of one bandit. These guys. From your point of view, you might be worried then. Chang Yang had a worried expression. Personalized recommendations you can't miss. Personalized recommendations you can't miss. Discovery feed. Ads by PubFuture. Then since they just need legs to pull the carriage, shall I break both their arms? The bandits looked at Quack Gyung with worldly earnestness. Quack Gyung didn't seem very compassionate despite the men shaking their heads. I will take it as you allow it. So I will break their arms so as to not worry you. No. Disciple. Wait. No matter what, how many arms are there? What kind of people are they? They kill people to make money, and if we weren't here, all of you would have been dead too. True, but normally, it is said that one should save people who are on the verge of dying, but we need to break their arms to live. Personally, I think we should break one of their legs, but we have a long way to go so. Quack Gyung's voice increased a few decibels as he got up to stop Chang Yang, who took his sword out. See, calm down. Calm down. Disciple. I am fine. I am not worried at all. Words will work. There is no need for actions. And the bandits shouted. I understand. I really do. Disciple. I will work harder. I will cook well too. Let me work. Break our hands if we touch even one of your men. Please. Save me. Chang Yang titled his head. Will you really behave? Yes. We mean it. Chang Yang's eyes twinkled. Why are bastards who can work fine acting like bandits in the first place, you bastard? Tack. Instead of the broken plum blossom sword, he used the sword he got from Tangunak to hit the bandit in front of him on the head. Bastards, you have your limbs all well and intact and could have done anything, but you chose to live through such methods. I am going to beat you up. I am the one who beat the shit out of the king of Green Forest bandits. Tack. 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 It was a pitiful sight to see. And the most pitiful one was the one getting hit presently. Don't expect to be treated like humans until we arrive at Yunnan. You are horses. You will drag us till we reach the place we need to. I will teach the path of Tao. When Chang Yang began to do this, Quack Gyung looked at Bak Chon. And Bak Chon smiled brightly at him. Give up. He cannot be stopped. And the Sehyungs all joined in the conversation. Wow, Sasuk. Still, Chang Yang is so kind these days. If it was the past, he would have pulled off their limbs first and then made them pull the carriage. No. There would have been no time even for regret. He would have pounced on their limbs right away. Right. And you yourself said. The head. He didn't break their heads. He is so kind. Don't worry. Thanks to that, our journey will be a lot easier, and at the same time, the bandits will learn their lesson. They will turn a new leaf. Turn a new leaf. They will be a lot better than just turning over a new leaf. Seeing Bak Chon mumble, Quack Gyung smiled without realizing it. I don't know anymore. Do what you want. As such, the journey to Yunnan sped up several times faster without any problems. No problems. How dare you bastards eat human food? Horses don't eat human food. Eat the fodder, you idiots. Well, there was a problem. But it was a small one. A very, very small one. Chapter 216. Did you just say Mount Hua? 1. See that? Yes, Hyang. Look. That vast land. This will all be our land. Hoo-hoo. Loud laughter ensued. There are no officials who will bother us here, and nobody else will come between our goals either. Now and here, we can do our very best. Of course, Hyang. Ha ha ha. Before this year is done, everyone will know the name of our Clued Tiger Village. Come on. Let's go. In the future, we will create history. Yes, brother. Shimmering passion. And hot ambition. Tact. Quack. The bandit grabbed his head. This makes me think differently. Does it feel comfortable now? No. Not at all. Disciple. You must think we have gone crazy. It isn't that. I just think your mind is drifting elsewhere. No. Not at all. Tears well up in Bang's eyes. I just want to go to my hometown and live by working on some land. What? Rule the world. I might as well just freeze to death. Right, death would sound better. Pull like a cow. Like a cow. Yes, disciple. Like a cow. Moo. Sad tears well up in Bang's eyes. Quack. A sharp cry of pain and an immediate groan escaped from his mouth. After being captured by Changyang, their routine was simple. From morning to dawn, they would literally just pull the carriage like they were horses. In the evenings, when the group paused their journey, the bandits would help the others prepare for camp and were given a short break later. Chief. It is too hard. Ah. I really feel like I am going to die. I'd rather just die. Tears well up in the eyes of Bangyo as he heard his subordinates. Why did I get caught by these men? They were bandits. They were the most notorious bandit group at the border of Sichuan. However, Bang Yo, the head of the bandits, had desperately realized that the world was wide and that there were real reapers out there. The youngest is still lost. It doesn't seem like he will turn sane any moment. Bang Yo closed his eyes tightly as he looked at the youngest member, who now had his eyes wide open with saliva dripping down the corner of his mouth. He will spend the rest of his time like that. Probably. Quack. Being the youngest meant having courage. However, the youngest one, Gongzhou, had gone against Chang Yang, and the cost of that mistake was too great. Seeing Gongzhou, who was arguing with the others, Chang Yang smiled and said, "Ads by Pub Future." Ha ha. The calf is talking. And it seemed like Bang Yo would never forget those words. As he said that, Chang Yang moved from the carriage and hit the man on the head like before. Since then, Gongzhou hadn't spoken. For the rest of his life, he would probably be the same, unable to do anything else. After Gongzhou turned out like that, no one dared to say anything more, even though their feet were swollen and limbs were broken. Furthermore, the real trouble wasn't theirs. Thud. Thud. You. Bang Yo looked at the disciples of Mount Hua, who were collapsing from exhaustion with tired faces. He couldn't even dare to think about how difficult it must have been for their clothes to turn into rags with just one training. At that moment, one figure entered Bang Yo's view. If you practice, you need to increase your stamina. Why is there no difference in your stamina? You're all worthless. Bang Yo's gaze lowered to the floor and saw Zhou Gul twitching. The first time he saw this man, he had thought he would be a good fit if he joined the bandits. But now, Zhou Gul was being hit by a younger man called Chang Yang. What? Take over the Central Plains. As he recalled his Hyung's words in the past, his blood boiled. The Central Plains. The Central Plains. That disgusting bastard. By what means could they even enter there anymore? They had gotten their asses handed to them before they could even properly take a step in. At that moment, Chang Yang turned his head. Oh. You seem to have some energy in you. The bandits all bowed their heads. TCH. Look at them acting like babies. Chang Yang clicked his tongue and walked somewhere. When he disappeared from their sight, the disciples of Mount Hua, who had fallen on the floor, struggled to get up. Zhou Gul's body was shaking. What is that bastard doing? Even ghosts have something they're scared of. Ugh. Zhou Gul sighed as he tried to get Yun Zhong up. Sehyung. Get yourself together. Where am I? No, forget it, just sleep. In the meantime, Zhou Gul took care of Sehyung's. Bak Chon sighed and spoke. Let's clean up and then get some sleep. We need to understand the training we did today a little more. Will you be fine? I can sleep in the carriage during the day, so it is fine. I am sorry, but not sorry for the bandits at the same time. They must have heard it. Mount Hua's disciples looked at the bandits. Bang Yo, who received their gaze, closed his eyes tightly without realizing it. Even dogs wouldn't have to go through this. The disciples of Mount Hua were moving away as they talked amongst themselves. The bandits watched it and sighed. Hyang. What? If we get out of this alive, let's not go to the Central Plains. Let's make sure we never make a mistake again. Even now, those who are younger and stronger than them are fighting and training to the point of coughing blood, so how could they have a chance? Are the Central Plains full of such monsters? Personalized content tailored to your preferences, all in one place. Personalized content tailored to your preferences, all in one place. Discovery feed. Ads by Pub Future. The actions and strength of the disciples of Mount Hua were giving birth to a misunderstanding. Quick. ACCK. Quick. The man-drawn carriage went down the road without stopping. Anyone who saw it would turn their heads and look at it. What? Why are people pulling the carriage? Why are the horses following them? Ha. I think I have seen everything in this life now. Looks like a merchant carriage from Sichuan. Bang Yo closed his eyes. The more they crossed the border of Yunnan, the more they ran into people. And the people who saw them would be curious. Is this so funny? Bang Yo felt tears in his eyes. In the past, people would tremble and back away from them, but now they gathered towards them to see the strange sight. He couldn't help but feel angry. And, of course, tack. Chang Yang, he was constantly hitting them. Quack. Bang Yo's eyes went wide as the sword with its sheath still on flew into his face. How dare this cow think of acting as a human? Ugh. TCH. I have become so kind. In the old days, I would have shredded you the moment I saw you. The problem was that it didn't sound like a joke. Bak Chon, who was sitting behind Chung Yang in the carriage, suddenly said, "Now we are completely inside Yunnan." Chung Yang nodded his head. "There are so many mountains here. The first thing the people who came to Yunnan would see was barren land. All I see are mountains and fields. I don't understand why the officials don't care about it." Bak Chon rolled his eyes. "We haven't seen the Nanman Beast Palace guards yet. Even if the entire Shaolin sect comes, they cannot protect Yunnan." Bak Chon nodded. Ever since he heard that Yunnan was ruled by the Nanman Beast Palace, he had thought that the guards of the Nanman Beast Palace would be there checking people. But when one thought about it further, it wasn't like if the palace in the depths of Yunnan to send guards to protect their territory in this far-off border. Kwak Yung, who was listening to them, spoke. "They manage it directly from the Kunming side, where the tea trade happens. Other than that, there are occasional patrols, but not too often. Then aren't we being too alert for no reason? We have to be." Kwak Yung lowered his voice. "The Nanman Beast Palace has influence in Yunnan that exceeds that of the Tang family in Sichuan. In other words, anyone you meet now could be an informant of the Nanman Beast Palace.